Hello friends, we're gonna go ahead and continue on. We are on spring day 3. This is another get a new tool, gather all of the things day. This one will take a bit longer just because the items that we're gathering take a little bit longer. There's more of them, but it is also one of the most commonly used and one of the fastest resources, even though we will have far more of it than any other resource at first before it is completely used up. And that's just the nature of trying to continue on in the main storyline and get all of the villages rebuilt, get all the buildings rebuilt. So here's the difference between holding down your action button and just moving to an active square and pressing it each time. It's quite a bit faster if you learn to control it. There is a couple of things that I want to go over that I should have gone over yesterday, that I should have set up, both for my use and also for convenience for anybody else. So we're going to, on the Switch, it is the plus sign. I believe that it is one of the select buttons for the PlayStation. We're going to go into the options and then into game settings. And because I want to show you as much as possible during the tutorial, and because I enjoy it more, we're going to play it on relaxed mode. We're also going to change the rotation speed for both vertical and horizontal all the way. And you have to press A to get it to save. Otherwise, if you accidentally close out of it, it won't take these different changes. So if you prefer the vertical or horizontal camera control to be inverted, you can change that here. You can adjust the sound volume here as well. But these two at the top are going to be key if you find that you don't have enough time in the day to get things done, or that you run out of stamina way too quickly just walking from point A to point B. Now, that's not going to be a large concern except in the very early part of the game. We are going to spend time as soon as we get the barn open getting ourselves a mount in order to save on some of that stamina cost. Now, in relaxed mode, there is still a stamina cost just running around, especially when we can start walking fast. I wouldn't necessarily call it a sprint because you can hold it down indefinitely until you run out of stamina, but it's basically a faster walk than what we've been dealing with during the tutorial. That won't become available until after we open up the valley and are able to explore other areas. Now, one reason, sorry, I still have my cold, so my voice might be doing weird things this morning. One reason why we were doing the spin controls, because look how much faster that is. It is much easier, especially in the mine when you have to reorient yourself to find the ore nodes, or to see if there is an area that goes out of the room that you're in, if there's a hallway or a branch that you need to explore. And I should have set that up yesterday when we were in the mine. I apologize that I did not, but I wanted to take the time to show you my preferred settings. And it's fine if you don't want to play like that. don't feel like you have to take it more relaxed. I personally prefer the cozy games to be less of a grind and more content, if that makes sense. So I prefer to be able to get more done in the day and feel more accomplished than have to take several days doing an activity that I could do much faster with longer days and more stamina. Without having the stamina on, you're going to find that just exploring or trying to get from one town to another town is going to drain you to the point that once you get to one town or to another town, you're not going to have stamina to take care of things. So especially in the beginning of the game, before we open up any additional stamina hearts, we really need to be careful about that. We can revisit that later on. If we find it's no challenge at all, we can always adjust those settings. They are available all throughout the game. Personally, it's just a preference, and I'm of the opinion that you play the game the way that you find most fun. And it's fine if you want to give me grief for that, but it is a lot easier doing walkthroughs for people when I can get all the way through an activity before the day ends and we have to be done. So in my personal playthroughs, I've played it both ways. This is mostly for the dynamics of the walkthrough so that I can get through things to show you where items are located, how to get things set up. Things are going to get very interesting once we get the barn opened up, and that's something that can be a little bit of a challenge early in the game because it requires silver ore. Well, technically you have to get it processed into silver, but finding the silver ore can be a challenge, especially if you are not used to the dynamics for the mining. I really do feel that in the tutorial it should have allowed you to go down to, say, level 5, just so that you could see the digging capabilities, and with the radar enabled during the tutorial so that it made... I can't tell you how many people have come to me that don't understand the real dynamics of mining because the tutorial is set up this way. And I just feel that it would be better for the players to understand the right way to mine. And if they had integrated that from the very beginning in this tutorial yesterday, it wouldn't have been so confusing when they open it up all the way. Now, part of that is that they may not be reading those help files that pop up. And I also think that one thing that they could have done with the game to improve it is, instead of having many different pages worth of context for how to do things, they should just have one large page that shows examples of everything on one large page rather than one small thing that you have to flip through the pages on. I just don't think that people's attention is being held long enough for them to read all of the context for all of the pages for all of the help files, which is one reason why I show them. And when we get our capability to open up all the menus, we are going to explore that more, and I will show you where you can get those help files once you're out of the tutorial area. Now, one thing that I did bring up for a moment when I was showing you the options to adjust the game settings, I did briefly pull up this screen. This on the Switch is the minus key. The plus key is the options. For the PlayStation, it's the big blank button that doesn't really have a name that I know of. If anybody knows the name of that big blank button in the middle of the controller that doesn't look like a button but is, I would love to know it. I'm just going to call it the menu button. So that big huge menu button, you can hit that to get this screen at this point. Previous days in the tutorial, you couldn't pull this up necessarily. I don't know why they did it this way, that you can pull it up now but not previously. You can also now pull up your backpack on the Switch. That is the X key, which is the top button. I believe it is also the top button on the PlayStation, and for whatever reason my brain does not want to remember which button that is on the PlayStation. I know it's not the X because the X is on the bottom for the PlayStation and is the action bar for the PlayStation. I want to say it's the triangle. I could be wrong, but it's that top button. So here's a good way that you can see when you're full on your bag. I get paranoid, as you may have mentioned, that I'm going to have too much items in my pockets. And once we're able to collect seeds, this is your seed bag. It's going to be full all of the time. All of the time. I will show you some tips to try to help, but it's probably going to be one reason why we will have to keep returning things to our storage constantly. The nice thing is we have those shortcuts to the storage in all of the stores. Well, not the workshops or the restaurants, but in the animal stores, the general store, the flower shops, I believe even the fishing ones do as well. Now my brain is not working again. It is very early in the morning. I have to record this very early in the morning while everybody is still asleep before I start either one of my full-time jobs. And my brain hasn't had enough caffeine, so it's still loading. I am not a morning person most of the time. I usually have to sit and drink a coffee or an energy drink for a while before my brain catches up. Now, Neil is one of the romanceable characters, and he is one of my favorite characters. I've never pursued a relationship, though, in this game. When it gets to the end game, when we have everybody available for romancing, I just never got past all of the events with the people that I liked the most in order to make it into a marriage thing. I know that the children in this game, they do have a dynamic where they go from baby stage into toddler stage into kid stage, which is nice. And they'll kind of follow you around and meet you at the festivals, which is fun. I love that they integrate the children into things rather than just having them as like a pet at the house that never leaves. I also love how she just gets an axe handed to her from a restaurant, and then some random neighbor girl is like, what are you doing with that axe? So all of these things that we have been gathering, we can actually gather again before the time constraints kick in for the rocks that we broke yesterday, which will be useful once we're needing all of the material stone. What we will do is in the beginning of the game here, when we open up shipping, we're going to throw in like a stack of rock, just plain old rock, just so that we can have some spending money and so that we can start improving the cultural level of Lechtenbury. And the rock is a lot easier to get because we can go through a second time and gather a bunch of rock, and we may even go into the mine and gather one of the days that it's going to be a short day, because basically everything's been done and all you do is it basically just immediately puts you to bed as soon as you pass in one thing that you'll already have everything for. So it's such a short day that we might just spend a little bit of time gathering some more copper and iron out of the mine, since we'll have the unlimited stamina, unlimited time until we push forward the storyline, and there's nothing else going on that day. The stones will not be back yet, but they will be back on the morning of the 5th day. If we don't leave the valley that morning of the 5th day, we will be able to clear out the stones one more time all over the town and all over this Lechtenbury area, and that will be useful both to replace the stack of stones that we're going to be selling in order to have some spending money and increase Lechtenbury's cultural level, but also because we're going to need it in repairing things around the town. Now, there's trees basically everywhere in this area, and because we're allowed to cut down all of the trees, they do only take a few days to grow back. I'd say, if I remember right, it's 3 or 4 days for them to be full grown, where we can chop them down again and get the full amount of lumber that we're getting right now. But this also means that we're going to have more areas that are available for us to explore. Now, the area that we just came from is actually behind Doc's house, which is weird. There's much closer trees to where Judy was standing next to that we could have chopped down first, but this is where they took us. Some of the areas that we were not allowed to go on the other days are now opened up, so we'll be able to clean up a few of the stones or boulders that we weren't able to reach before. We'll also be able to get down to where the waterfall flows, which is an area we haven't been allowed to access. Down on the beach where it's got those clams, we can now gather those, and that's going to also be something that we can use to restore our stamina once we need to restore our stamina. Once we are able to fish, those clams and things can be used in crafting bait. Now, I generally hang on to the clams and things so that I can cook with them, but sometimes you just really need some bait, so if you need to use them for bait, you can. There are points in the game where you can just purchase bait without having to use materials to craft it, and at those times I recommend, if you have the money, to spend it on bait. One reason being is because fishing is one of the best ways to earn money in this game. It is, if you're doing fishing the right way, you can upgrade your house just the costs of it just purely from fishing. Now, you may not have the materials for it yet, but the major costs, the money that you have to invest into it, that you're going to subsidize with fishing. Now, some people absolutely hate fishing, so you might just be fishing the high value fish when you have to in order to afford the things that you need. But it is probably the most lucrative way to go. There are other ways to make money, and I have made a money-making guide that breaks down. There's a few things that you can do aside from fishing. But in this walkthrough, we're going to focus mainly on fishing. I will show you some of the other ways. Gems are a good way to earn money, especially in the early game when you don't need very many gems aside from crystals. And you can get them cut by any workshop and then sold for a lot more than they're worth in their raw form. But if you're desperate enough for money, you can also just sell the raw form. You won't make as much money, but it's still going to be better than nothing. Than waiting until you have enough money to get it processed, and then, especially if you're needing to get something on a certain day when it's on sale. And just like the boulders, all of these trees throughout the town are capable of being cut down. Maybe that's why Judy took us all the way over into that corner, but sorry, Judy, we need the lumber. We have a lot of buildings to restore, including that broken down one in the background right there. You can see that just through going through the main storyline, we are building up the cultural level. The more that you do and the more that you improve a town, the easier or the faster that goes. It is going to stall out at, I believe, 3 stars. And that's when we're going to have to move on to another town area to get this town to unlock after its 3rd star. We can then come back to finish up the stars and get them up to 5. But generally, every town is going to have a lock on their 3 star that's going to have a specific quest we're going to need to do, or it's going to require having another town opened up, or it's going to require materials to turn in for a festival that you don't have access to at that point in the game. And that's to encourage you to not stay put in one town. One thing that I want to warn you about is when we are able to move our farm around, we do not want to move where it suggests in the beginning of the game, right next to the very next town we're going to come across. The town we come across is going to be in the very middle, kind of like the central hub of the spokes of the wheel of the different areas of the game. And the reason you don't want to move there is because that town is locked out for a cultural level until the very end game. So there's no point in wasting the potential cultural level increases by shipping where you're located at that second town that we are going to come across at the very beginning of the game. We will want to wait and get it increased at Lily Kala rather than Providence. Providence cultural level is it tends to be the very last village that you'll want to spend in. And I do recommend moving there after you get the very last, the winter town called Zimmergrad. Once you get that one opened up all the way, and you get that cultural level where you want it to be, you get the festival. I think you can't even get the festival or it unlocked all the way until you do a couple of things in Providence and in Erbsburg, which is the fall town that you'll usually get to before you get to Zimmergrad. So you can see these mushrooms over here. These are the ones that we saw, but were never able to collect because it kept warping us out of the area. And we are going to collect every single one of these trees because the lumber that we create with it, it will be different shapes of lumber that we can create ourselves. We won't need to go to a workshop for it. It's just going to take time for it to basically finish itself. It's really part of this game dynamic is that you start a activity and then you leave it while it finishes itself. May not be very realistic, but for the time dynamic of the game, it's what has to be in order for you to get everything done that you need to in a timely manner. We are going to need some lumber to fix that building that is going to become the inn for Lechtenbury. Opening the inn will it is something that you're going to be doing in a lot of the towns, and that enables the travelers, and you'll know who the travelers are because they have really big backpacks on them. Every single one of them is some kind of a shopkeeper, and they, when you speak to them and when you first meet them, are wearing just a very large backpack. So you'll know who your traveler is for each town. There's a total of 3 of them in the beginning of the game for one of the DLC packs. There is another traveler that is kind of a special case that we'll explore more if we make it all the way to the end game. The DLC is just another way to extend playtime in the game, and this game has a lot of playtime in it just with the main story. And then with the DLC you have a bunch of additional playtime on top of that. So let's take a look at the inventory. See how we have so much more lumber this time around. We will fill up our entire backpack, so we're going to have to take time to sneak into a shop or into our house to offload the lumber that we collect. And if you don't want to go through and do all of the stone, then don't do it. But if you feel like you don't need the lumber, that is not true. You're going to want to deforest this entire area. And this is the best time to do it. It saves you a lot of grief and a lot of time later on if you just chop every single tree that's on here. Now, in the main game, once we open it up and we get the wisps that are supposed to help us out throughout the game in different ways. There's a golden type of wisp that you're going to want to collect that will give you increases or ways to increase both your stamina and your backpack storage. And this is going to be very important throughout the game, but this is how you make the game a lot more easier to handle in the early game. Sometimes you will have to chop down a tree that might be at the end of a very long path that is hard to get to, or is by itself on the very top of a mountain. For example, there is a tree here on this area that is like that. We're going to chop it anyway. The Golden wisp is going to be available as soon as we can view the wisps, because we've already chopped the tree. Now these trees do grow back, and this is one of my favorite places to go when I need lumber, because it is a very fast thing to gather here. The trees are very numerous. They are easy to chop down as you upgrade your axe, relative to the other trees that are going to be available later on in the game. And it provides one lumber for every chop. I do recommend just completely chopping down the entire tree, because it's only going to be a few days for it to come back. If you don't get rid of the stump, then you're going to have to wait until you get rid of the stump before it grows back anyway. So I would just get it all taken care of all at once. I have seen where you cut down the trunk or down to the stump and you leave it and it grows back anyway, but it is the same amount of time and you just wasted that extra amount of resources. And once you get your axe upgraded all the way, cutting down a tree doesn't take nearly as much time. So I think we're good on that side. I do want to show you the areas that we weren't able to access before. We stayed up on the plateau here just to chop and to gather, but we're going to go down into this area where the waterfall is located. This is an area we weren't previously allowed to go explore. There's a few rocks here. I want to say 2 boulders, but there's a bunch of trees and we're just going to go ahead and take care of all of those right now. One more thing is when you are out into the main world and you can view the wisps, when you chop just a regular tree, or if you are picking fruit from a regular tree, occasionally it will cause one of the wisps to pop out, and you can occasionally get a bag of seeds that you wouldn't normally have available there. They're not available on every tree or on every rock, because it does happen when you break a rock as well. But it is a random thing that can happen, and it's nice because you can get some seeds you may not have gotten previously. Or you might get a bunch of seeds that are generally hard for you to locate in a large pile. They generally, if you get a red one, it's going to be about 2 to 3 seeds. If you get a blue wisp, it'll be more. It's generally 4 to 5 seeds. Or it could just be rare seeds that aren't available in the area. Commonly, you'd have to travel out to get that particular type of seed. And I'll show you, there's a couple of examples of those right here in this area once they populate. Now you can see there's flowers over there that are sparkling. Those are the only flowers in this area that you can actually pick. The rest are just decoration and it won't allow you to pick them, but those sparkling flowers you can pick. We'll go ahead and grab them all and just stick them in our storage. Do not lose these. Do not sell them, and do not hand them out, because you're going to need some of them in the very immediate future. Eventually you will be able to grow them yourself, but at this point in time, you will not be able to. We just don't have the seed packets for it. Personally, though, since they grow back every 4 or 5 days, I will grow them in order to try to get a hybrid of them. But I generally just pick the flowers if I need just the pink ones. You'll get the pink flowers even if it turns into a hybrid. We're going to be focusing a lot on the flowers once we are done with our current seeds in order to open up both the flower shop and the festival for this area. We're going to need several different kinds of flowers. Flowers are also a good money maker. Not necessarily worthwhile once you can fish the big fish, but in the very beginning, when you have your beginner rod and you can't fish very large fish, it is a quick and easy way just to increase your cultural level, especially if you don't have anything to ship that day. That's great. You don't need a lot of flowers in the beginning of the game once you have unlocked the flower shop and the festival. If you want to romance Judy, her favorite is a tulip, which is something that is easy to grow in this area. The seeds are all over the place in this area, so it's easy to find. They're not hard to grow. So you can see those are the clams, and you can see their silhouettes in the water where the fish is. There's a couple things about fishing that this game doesn't go over in great detail. If you have a hard time fishing, I recommend watching my fishing tutorial. It will give you not only the best method of fishing, but it will also show you the different areas that you want to focus on in order to get things that are going to be fish related, both monetarily so that you can have money, but also in order to provide items that are requested early in the game but are not available until later in the game when you unlock a few areas for the fish. And one of them is very hard to locate. It requires that you are in summertime and you have at least one bridge built. Every bridge that you built or that you have built will open up a new area, and part of the opening up of the world is going to be a lot of building bridges that keep people from being able to travel from one area to another, or it's not just the big wall like in Lechtenberry. There are walls. There's walls that you will have to do this on in 4 of the major villages, but there's also a bunch of bridges that you're going to need to build in order to get to places that you're going to need access to. One of the villages you cannot access without being able to build a specific bridge. At least there's 2 bridges you could build, possibly, but that is going to be almost impossible going one way. I've heard of it being done, but it's just so much harder than it necessarily needs to be. So I'm going to show you the preferred, more easy way to build the bridge you need to get to Zimmergrad. So this is the area that we never were able to explore as well because of the warping. No matter what day it was, we weren't able to get up on this little plateau. The wisp, the golden wisp that I was telling you about, it's from this pink tree that is surrounded by the green trees. You have to chop this all the way down for it to appear. We're going to do it anyway because we need the lumber. But if we were able to see the wisps, it would pop out. It'll just be standing there. And it may actually just be standing there without cutting it down. I've never tested it because we need lumber so badly in this game that I am not going to leave a tree when I can get the free lumber during this time frame when the time of day doesn't change, your stamina doesn't change. Especially considering how hard it can be when you're desperate for lumber to, say, rebuild a workshop, for example, that you're going to need desperately. It can take days to gather enough lumber because you will just run out of stamina so quickly. And there's going to be times when you will just completely run out of food that you can eat. You'll be dumping a lot of money into buying food, into cooking food, into gathering ingredients, just to be able to get the amount of lumber that you need. So having every single tree cut down, which is sad because this is such a pretty town with all the trees up, they do grow back in like 3 to 4 days. So, and they're full grown in that time. So it's not that tragic. It's only sad for a little while. And you'll come back once you have the need of more lumber. But at that point, you will be hopefully able to get at least one axe upgrade so it doesn't take nearly as long. Right now, one chop is one lumber, and it takes several chops to break down the tree. With the next level up axe, you'll get multiple lumber for one swing, and it will take less time to break it down, but you'll get the same amount of lumber each time. It will just take a lot less time and a lot less stamina when you have an upgraded axe. The tools all can be upgraded quite a bit. The ones that are the most useful are going to be the fishing pole in order to get the larger fish that you're going to want in order to finance the big purchases. But you're also going to want to do your pickaxe so that you can, well, probably your hammer, because with the hammer you're going to want to break down gems and the big boulders a lot easier. But your axe is going to be the priority over that one. So it'll probably be the fishing pole, and then the axe, and then the hammer, and then the pickaxe. And that's just so that when you're digging in the mines, you can get through the boulders that block your way without it draining all of your stamina and then you having to leave. There are different varying difficulty levels for each mine. The Lechtenbury one doesn't have pits or traps, and so it's probably the easiest of the mines to get down to the bottom. Just requires a little bit of luck and a lot of food, but it's one of them that you can get down to the bottom of the mine fairly quickly because the mine is very shallow in this one. It doesn't get down as far as some of the deeper mines. The more challenging mines are going to be introduced in the Lily Kala region. That one will have both pits that you can fall through, and it will also have rocks that can fall on your head, both of which will drain your stamina to the point that you might pass out. and then you're done for the day. You can't, it just warps you right on back. You can't do anything about it. So you have to be very careful and keep your stamina full while you're in those types of mines if you're trying to get down deeper into the mine. Now, each mine, the dynamic works that if you hit one of the levels ending in a 1, so 11, 21, 31, and in Lectenbury, 41 is one of the deepest levels you can reach. It will give you a warp point back. Now, each level that ends in a 0, so 10, 20, 30, 40, they all have fishing areas. Actually, I think Lectenbury might go a little bit deeper than that. I'll double check on it and let you know when we're actually doing the mining. But there's some that go down like 81 levels, for example. And so on the 10th level, on level 80, oh, this is a rock that we missed previously. Because of the grass, it's hard to see. Anyway, on the 0 levels, there's going to be a little pond that's going to have fish in it. Generally, there is a special fish in it that you can catch with your fishing pole if you're lucky or skilled. And it's going to be worth more than a regular fish. So it's definitely worth selling. You can pass them in for requests if you have to. If you have all of them be special level of fish, or if you have a increased reputation with the person that you're handing the fish to, it can increase your reward, either the quality or number of the reward that you get for passing in the fish. But it's not enough of a boost, and it requires having a friendship level you may not have attained yet to influence it enough to worry. I would just sell the special fish. You can cook with it as well, so if you're desperate for stamina, if you're needing to go from 1 heart all the way up, you can cook with special golden ingredients, and it will make higher quality food, which will increase your stamina more. In the beginning, though, when we don't have very many recipes, this game doesn't let you just throw ingredients together to try to guess a recipe. You have to have a recipe in order to make it. We're just going to sell all of the golden fish that we catch rather than cook with it unless it's necessary to unlock a festival or for a major quest. If it's a daily request, which several people will ask for different types of fish every few days, then it is not worth passing in all your goldfish. I would just sell them or cook with them, but I would normally just sell them. There is a specific type of fish that is going to generally be a star or double star quality, means that selling one fish of it can basically increase your funds thousands of I guess they call it gold. Let's see if they have. No, we don't. We haven't earned any money here, so I forget what the money is called. Again, it's quite early and I haven't gotten enough caffeine. Now we're almost done chopping down all of the trees. Let's double check our inventory. Yep, we're good. So we should be able to finish up the rest of these trees, pass it in, and that will be it for this day. Tomorrow, it's going to be the very short day. So we're going to go through the mine a few times just to buffer our copper, iron, and gather some extra stone. And there is one day that it will not let you save at night. I want to warn you now, because it will immediately put you to bed. You will not be able to save it. It will take you into the next day. And that next day is going to be one of the longest days of the game. So, just to prepare you, we will be breaking that into 2 walkthrough days, even though it will not allow you to save. And that's going to be tomorrow, because you have that very short day and it immediately puts you to bed and it doesn't let you save. So we will break that into 2, where we go into the mine and we go at least 3 times through the mine, doing that full clear sweep into the mine. And we're going to do that so that we can buffer our material stone once we can start processing. So I'm going to pass in the items that we need to give him. I don't think that we can finish this up today because it's going to be tomorrow, but we need to make sure that we talk to Doc and get him to show that little note. You can see the reputation on his very, very first note has just the very tail end on it. He tends to be a character that I tend to forget about until I need something processed or some gem cut. So during this tutorial, if we can increase his friendship level, we should. So we're going to go right on back into the restaurant and make sure that we talk to him if he's in there, or into his house. Yeah, he's right here. And now we got that note, so he's done for the day. Neil has that exclamation point, but we can't do anything tonight anyway because they have to fix their kitchen. So we're going to go and take a look at all of the materials we have today. We will be able to start shipping tomorrow. This is going to be the bulk of what we have gathered during this time frame, aside from tomorrow, and the very early morning of the 5th is not going to cause stamina or time to change, so we're going to take full advantage of that as well before we go into the wider world. So what we're looking at is we have looks like 511 stone, 32 iron ore, 5 copper ore, and then we have over 1,000. We've got 1,026, I think, if math is mathing right, of just regular lumber. Now this is uncut lumber, this is raw ore, and this is unprocessed stone. So none of this will be useful in its current form. In the immediate future, there are a few upgrades that will need just plain old lumber rather than the processed lumber. But it's it's a very good beginning. I mean, we'll go through this faster than you believe, but it'll also enable us to push the storyline quite a bit faster than we normally would. So, I don't know if I showed you this. You can access this through the fridge as well, but it's the same as going to this drawer set or this drawer set. This allows you to change your character's appearance if you decide you want to change your hair color, or if you've unlocked any more of the outfits, you can wear them there. The home interior, you'll be able to unlock different furniture in different towns from the workshop or from Doc's, the workshop owner in Lechtonberry. And it'll provide you different styles in different towns for different things. So we're going to go ahead and call that a day. I appreciate you guys being patient with me while my brain wakes up. I will do the second part of the walkthrough, hopefully more awake later on today. But it does look like we've got a good handle on mining, on the lumber and the stone. Tomorrow our turnips should come in. If you have any questions, if you found this walkthrough useful, please comment or like. Please let me know if you want to see other things, or if you want to get my feedback on different aspects of the game. I am happy to answer any game related questions. Feel free to put them down below. I would appreciate it if you would share this with anyone who plays the game, and I hope that you have a great day.